Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Questions for Peggy. So in the last couple of weeks, I've had two different families reach out to me about recent mold exposure, and the two situations are unique. And at the same time, some of the concepts are very universal. So I wanted to share some simple strategies and some places to start in terms of what do I do when I know I've been exposed to mold. So I'm going to share a little bit about each of the cases. So one of them was a person who has a history of mental illness with trauma and anxiety and all kinds of things going on medically, and has completely been dismissed by the medical community, which is very frustrating. So my heart goes out to you when and if you have experienced this, where the provider, the emergency room was like, oh, you have anxiety. This is just anxiety. It's nothing to worry about, or they don't believe you. The support isn't there. And it's really, really frustrating. And this person can clearly see, even though there were prior things that were, problematic previously, after once they learned that had discovered that things really escalated when they were in this environment that was clearly full of mold. It's a clear delineation, and you understand, like, this definitely is making me worse, and I know it, and I know things got better when I was no longer in that environment. It's pretty clear. And so the other case is aging family members who found black mold in their air conditioners, and they were like, they've been dizzy, they've been unsteady on their feet, the pain has been intensified. And the part that was most disturbing for them was the confusion. And so initially it was one person that was experiencing it, and then both of the people that were living in the home were experiencing it. And the home that was attached to them, which included pets and children, the pets were sick and were taken to the vet for multiple different types of infections. And so one of the things I wanted to start off by saying is, if there is a pet or if there's a person in your home that is sick, they're often what we call the canary in the coal mine, and mold is often not seen and it makes people sick. And so especially when more than one person in your family and your home are suffering from something, I'd like to say they're like the check engine light on our car. So when one or more person are having something, start by looking in your environment. Okay, so that's just something, just validating that. And so it can happen a lot when one person is experiencing something and the other one is saying, well, I'm not experiencing anything, so it can't be true. So listen to your canaries. There's a reason they place the canaries in the coal mine, if you've never heard this expression. So if the canary collapsed, then the coal miners would know that they needed to get out of the coal mine because the air has become unsafe. And so the canary, got really sick and maybe even passed away. Sorry, little canaries, but they helped keep a lot of miners alive and safe. Okay, so here are some steps. So if you have been exposed to mold, I want to also add that these types of exposures do accumulate in our system. So for myself, for example, like I know, like we had a lot of wood, we brought a lot of wood, and one of my allergies that I learned years later was I actually I have an allergy to tree mold. And so sometimes that stuff there are things that we can bring into our home that will make our home air unsafe. And then most of the time, though, it's from water damage. We do have mold in our foods, and I can talk a little bit about that. But a lot of our standards in the US are very low in terms of what we allow for these things to be present in our food. So I want to put that out there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I want to talk about some practical strategies, because when you have been exposed to mold and you have mold brain, you have the confusion, it's really hard. I called it brain fog when I experienced this. And it's like hard to remember. Things are like, it's so overwhelming and you can only take in so much information. So on a video like this, watch it again, write down a couple of notes, figure out something that resonates with you and make one small shift. Do this for a few days and then come back to it and add something else. So just take one step at a time. And I promise you that you can recover. I'm a good example of that. And yeah, you can recover. So I just want you to know that a lot of times people are feeling hopeless and helpless and oftentimes not believed, and that can be really hard and frustrating. So there's a belief out there that we wash everything in bleach and that should take care of the mold. Bleach is like painting the leaves green. It can make it look good for a minute, but it's not getting to the root cause. Bleach actually causes the mold. So think of mold as an organism, as a little critter. It causes the mold to actually like shut down and hide better. And when it does that, it actually gives off these invisible spores that we end up breathing in. Makes us sicker. So it almost makes the mold stronger. So there's something called EC3 that is a much better option for you to use to clean the mold and clean the areas with. And truly, if you have had air circulating with the black mold in your home, a good idea would be to get a thorough cleaning in the house and clean everything properly. Start with room by room and just start bringing the levels down. So we want to reduce our exposure over time. And so keep working at it. It will catch up, I promise. So I also, to clean our clothes, so our clothing, it's organic and it holds the mold inside of there. So, start by decluttering, get rid of the dusty areas in your home. You may have a spotless home. I'm not judging anybody, but if you don't, start by decluttering and simplifying. And mold loves, clutter and dust and dark and damp. So, go through your clothes, go through your closets and, separate out, only leave out a few things at a time so you can rotate them through and keep them clean. I use the non-toxic, non-scented laundry detergent because with the scented things, the strong smelling things, it actually makes again, like the bleach, it kind of makes the mold stronger and it doesn't help to kill them. So we want to change like the microbiome of our home, just like we do our gut. So I use non-scented laundry detergent. I add some borax to it. To my laundry, I make like a little mixture. I add some borax and I add something called trisodium phosphate. It's like a TSP. I add that to my laundry, as well as I rotate different essential oils to add to my laundry mix. Right now I'm using tea tree oil, but there are lots of good essential oils out there. Like instead of, just the scented Febreze types of laundry soaps, you want to add something like an essential oil that will help to negate what the mold is doing to us. It's like adding a probiotic to your supplements. Sunshine can also help. So, and some things should be actually thrown out. So as you're going through your closet and you find some things that you've got mold growing, or some shoes that were in the back closet that was in a damp area, just throw that stuff out. I know it's really hard. A lot of people are like, I can't throw it out, but it's like your health is wealth, and the value of your getting better and getting better faster is going to be worth it in the long run. And, most things can be washed. And if there's something like we have a couple of heavy leather jackets that definitely had, that musty, moldy smell to it. And like, we put them out in the sunshine for days and days and days and days on end. And there's still a little smell in there, but they're significantly better. And they probably should be eliminated completely, but you'll see what I'm talking about. And if you have had mold exposure, most of us can tell just by our nose if there's a must or a smell. So we want to reduce the whole burden on the immune system overall. So this is why we look at the environment, and we want to, what happens is when mold is now in our body, it really it robs everything. It robs its essential nutrients. It robs the vitamins and minerals that we're taking in. When I had lab testing done after I had, I was suspecting that it could have been mold for me. Like my vitamin C levels in my body were basically zero, like even though I was taking it. So one of the first things I did was added much higher doses of vitamin C, and it actually brought me back to life. It was pretty stinking cool. So, okay. We want to test so that we know how to treat the right organism. So the reason that I say that, so, you may know you have mold, but if you don't know what type of mold, you might not know what kind of binders to use. So the binders are it's like the mop. The binders mop everything up inside the body, and we eliminate the toxins in that mop, and it gets rid of it. It's like going in the mop water. So before I go there, I want to say, so I'm going to talk about testing, but one of the first things that I should have mentioned is rule number one, you have to be eliminating. You have to have at least 1 to 2 bowel movements every day. You need to be urinating frequently. So you need to be urinating approximately every couple of hours. That means that you're well hydrated and your urine should be clear, because our liver and our kidneys are our primary organs of detoxification. And if you're not eliminating through those organs, everything's going to recycle, and the toxins are going to recirculate. So you can be mopping up all you want with the binders, but you've got to eliminate them. You got to dump out the mop water, the bucket, the water in the bucket. So, okay. So there are a few different ways, and you can do it pretty inexpensively, and it feels like it's overwhelming. However, there's something called immunolytics.com, IMMUNOLYTICS, and they have mold plates. They're very inexpensive, and I didn't look up to see exactly how much they cost. For they're like $3 a piece, we'll say. And so what you do is you get your mold plates in the mail, and you put them in each room, and you follow the directions. It's like keep the mold plate open in the areas that you suspect. You can put one in each room. And what you do is you cover it up and you put it away. And when you can see 5 or more organisms growing on that mold plate, then you have a problem in that area. So you can quickly send it off to the lab, and it ends up being like $33 per room. I think they'll do $30 per mold plate for analysis, and they will give you a readout of what you have for mold in your home, what organisms specifically that you have. What I loved about this company is you can check off the box and they will give you a free consult. So the gentleman that I spoke with, I'm going to share a little bit. He is a pharmacist, retired, and he had has an old farmhouse in Texas, and his wife, was losing her mind. She was having early signs of dementia, and she ended up in a nursing home. And what happens when you go into a nursing home, they're like, okay, that's the end of your life for you. Well, somehow, some way, he learned that it could have been mold, and he ended up finding just an old water leak somewhere, and there was mold, and he went in and remediated the home, and lo and behold, her health got better. And once they figured out what was going on, they treated her appropriately. And then when I spoke with him, this was a couple of years ago, but she was home and doing incredibly better. And so there is hope for you. So I want you to know that. So that's one of the things. You can also do an ERMI test, which is ERMI. And, it's a lot of times people will get this ERMI test done, and there's so many different types of testing, but these are a couple that I'm familiar with. And with the ERMI, you can get that done pretty inexpensively. And there's a site called www.ermicode.com, ERMI code. CODE.com, and for $27 you can put in your information that you received about your ERMI test, and they'll send you all kinds of stuff, like what to do with it. Because sometimes you get those results and they're like, well, what do we do now? And so we need people to help us interpret what we're looking at, because it can feel extremely overwhelming. I mean, when I learned about this, I did my own deep dives and was self-taught, but it's a lot, and it's a lot to do when your brain is already feeling foggy and confused. So test your house, see what you have, and take it from there. One of the steps that I always tell my people, whether or not you have mold or not, is open your doors and windows for at least 10 to 15 minutes, at least once or twice every single day. The air outdoors is much less toxic than indoor air. I'm going to say that again. Open your doors and windows at least twice a day. It doesn't matter how cold it is. Just let the air flow through and get some fresh air going through. And you need to keep your house dry. If you do not have a dehumidifier going in your home, they do have moisture meters that are very, very inexpensive, but to place into different spots that are common areas, like behind the dishwasher, underneath the sinks. And the people that are most likely to pay for a $25, $30 moisture alarm are the ones that have had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on remediation, or they've had to walk away from an infested home. But I'll tell you, if you do it, you're going to save yourself all kinds of time and money. So a dehumidifier is absolutely important, so the mold will thrive in the right environment. So there are different rules of thumb. Some say less than 50% is good for humidity. I like it better at like 40 to 45 degrees. But you know, it's going to really give you some wiggle room. It's going to give you a little bit of peace of mind and keep the levels down in your home. So not all areas in your home will get good airflow. You can look at those areas though and see what you can do about making better airflow, pulling some things away from the walls, just like 3 to 6 inches away from the walls will allow for better airflow. Check your crawl spaces. That's a really important area. It's an area well known to be problematic. There are companies, basementsystems.com will come and look at your crawl space and tell you what you need to do to keep that space dry and prevent future mold problems. It's one that I'm aware of. Your HVAC system is another area that is often overlooked. But the evaporator coil is a place that harbors mold a lot. And I'm in a couple of different mold groups, and I've heard quite a few people who have said this was the source of mold in my home. And so it's worth getting checked every single year. So one of the things that I learned, one of the tricks I learned is you can put in an infrared light in your filter, and it sort of scrubs the air as the air is getting exchanged in your home. It's very inexpensive to do, and mold does not like the infrared light. It kills it. So that is an easy tip. Environmentalanalytics.net will also do a consult for you. And there's several, this is sort of a resource page that I've started. But there are lots of places, and a lot of places that will test for mold locally will also sort of remediate, but it's kind of tough to have somebody testing and doing the remediation because, where's the guarantee? So I would prefer, testing and having somebody else remediate, but we can do a lot of it on our own. If you have a heavy source of mold in your home, it's probably a good idea to have somebody coming in and supporting you around that. And again, like if you're watching this video and you are like, I need to run this by somebody, like I'm happy to get on a call with you. I'm not like per se a certified mold expert per se, but I've done, I don't know how many hundreds, if not thousands of hours of deep dive into this. So I'm happy to just chat with you about that. Okay, so here are some really inexpensive strategies and things that you can do that can help up-level your own health, that can help your body and your immune system really fight this off. Number one, get yourself outside in the sun. The sun is healing. Like I mentioned, if there's anything in your home that needs to be remediated, like put it out in the sun. It's not going to kill everything, but it's going to help a lot. It's going to help reduce. Moving things in your body. I talked about, like the using binders, which by the way, when you do take binders, we need to take them away. We need to take them at a different time than we're taking all of our vitamins in our nutrient dense foods. But one of the things we want to do is we want to move everything in our body. So we want to make sure if we're somebody that's sitting, one of the ladies I spoke to recently is essentially wheelchair bound. So our bodies aren't moving enough. So we can do some different things. We can change our position. We can put our feet up. We can dance in our seat. Like I have this wonderful dancing doctor that I follow, and she dances every morning. And, she's like, even if you're in bed, even if you're in your chair, you can move your body. So we want to get everything moving as much as possible. So there's something called dry brushing. And I believe I made a video on dry brushing, but there are lots of videos and instructional things on dry brushing for like $5. Most grocery stores and box stores have a natural bristled brush that you can dry brush, and you brush on the top of your skin. That helps move your lymph, and it helps to detox whatever is running through your body. Put your feet on the ground. So dry brush every day. If I literally dry brush every day before I shower. I dry brush in the shower with my clothes off, and I get my lymphs moving, and it feels amazing. Put your feet on the ground. Being outside in nature every day. If you have access to the ocean, put your feet in the ocean. If you have the ability to put your feet on the ground or in the grass, do that. That helps to exchange the ions in your body. Prioritize your sleep. Make sure that you're sleeping. If you're not sleeping well, we need to start there. Reduce the ambient light in your home, all the blue light in your home. Change the lights to have warm amber red lights instead of the bright overhead lights. Those are not good for our body. Elevate the head of your bed. So one of the things we want to do is make sure that we're sleeping well, but when we're sleeping, our head should be elevated because we want everything to be draining from our brain. And we call it the glymphatic system. And so elevating the head of your bed will mean that everything is going to be going with gravity, and we want it to go in that direction. Wash your bedding frequently, at least once a week. Change your bed. So everything gets stored in the sheets when we're sweating and all that stuff. So we end up reabsorbing it. So wash your bedding frequently. You can wash your pillows, put them right in the washer and in the dryer. Okay, I'll just pause for a second. One of the things that makes mold stronger is something called EMF, so electromagnetic frequencies, which is the thing that we get from our wireless router. It's like, seems crazy, but it's a real thing, and it really makes a difference in terms of somebody's healing. So where is the router in your house? So where is the Wi-Fi coming from your house? So, some people have been like, oh, it's right near my bed. And when they've moved it, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm sleeping so much better. But it does disrupt us at a cellular level. So, and distance does matter with EMF. So, for example, one of the things that I recommend to anybody that's in my program that is working on healing, whatever they're healing from, is I recommend that you turn your device either so especially at night. So at night is when we're really healing the most and we're doing our most recovery time. So your devices should be powered all the way down, because if they're on and they're what they do is they bounce and they're looking for a signal. So turn your devices onto airplane mode. So it will link up just with the Wi-Fi directly, and it won't be looking for looking for connection. So it's much better for our bodies, and distance does matter. So if you were to sleep with your phone, or nearby, or you used it to listen to your meditation or whatever, keep it at arm's length. That really literally does make a difference in our body. So we shouldn't be sleeping with our phones on our bodies. And we do pick up some signals from that, and it can interrupt our healing. So one of the things I mentioned is that when we are dealing with mold or fungus, other bacteria and viruses, this can rob essential vitamins and nutrients. But the most important thing is 100% of the time our gut gets wrecked. And so if your gut is wrecked, your brain is wrecked. If your brain is compromised, your gut is compromised. So we really need to heal the gut in this process in order to fully recover. So one of the first steps that you can do is to start by eliminating any additional sugar, if you're bringing it in. I'm going to share, like, for most people, not everyone across the board, but for most people, when there's mold, there's oftentimes an overgrowth of yeast in our bodies. And so those things tend to thrive together. And so one of the ways that I've known, like, the most recent time I was on antibiotics for something, it disrupts our internal environment. And I notice I'm craving sugar, I'm craving simple carbohydrates. So it's one of the ways to know that we're out of balance. So one of the first things we can do is eliminate processed sugar. And I know a lot of people are like, I'm not giving up my sugar, but I guarantee just after a few days of not adding any additional sugar and processed foods, that the cravings go way down. I guarantee that it really does work. So tons and tons of fresh fruits and vegetables, and even intermittent fasting, just by narrowing the time. Unfortunately, a lot of people are eating for 14 hours a day. And so, we really want to reduce the time that we're eating. So if we can fast, so even not eating for 12 hours. So if you can just extend the time that you're not eating, like at night, so stop snacking earlier in the evening and delay a little bit longer when you eat for the first time in the morning, it gives your gut time to take its energy away from digesting your food, and it allows it to spend more time to heal. And so that's one of the simple strategies that I recommend for people to use, when they're healing from anything like this. So I want you to know, one of the things I just wanted to mention, because I have a specialty in child and adolescent psychiatry, but if you have kids that have been sick, a lot of times, you may have had them tested, they may have had sudden onset of symptoms, and you're like, is it mold that my kid's dealing with? They may have something called PANS or PANDAS, and they may have had a sudden onset of OCD symptoms, or they're something's changed in their personality and you can't quite put your finger on it. Well, for kids, a lot of times things come on very quickly. And so for adults, sometimes it's not so quick, but because it comes on quickly for kids, sometimes they heal really quickly. So for adults, if we've been dealing with it for a long time, I want you to know you may have to be in this for the long haul. But for kids, we may need to change the treatments a little bit more quickly and do more frequent check-ins for them. But some things to look for them, for kids is they may have sudden mood dysregulations, they may have weight gain, or for some people, they may have weight loss, and you're like, what's going on? Fatigue, brain fog, can't concentrate, can't sit still. And so what we're looking at is our bucket is full. And so our toxin bucket is full. So our job is to really work on reducing that bucket of toxins. So to clean up the food, clean up the air, clean up your water, make sure that your water is filtered, and make sure you're drinking plenty of water. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that for most people, if you have been exposed to mold, a lot of times we have nasal stuff. And so I know people people that recently found black mold in their AC, they were like, they had mold in their previous home. And like maybe in the last few years noticed that they started to need to do a nasal spray every single day. And a lot of times we're supposed to be breathing through our nose. And so we need to do nasal rinses. So I usually recommend at least once or twice a day of nasal rinses. And we want to look at doing, adding something to our nasal rinses to help with the, whatever's going on in there. And there are some pretty easy ways to test. You might need to test your nasals to check to make sure there's something called a Marcon's swab. That's pretty inexpensive. But you can add some silver to your nasal rinses. You can add some certain essential oils also that can help deal with the biofilm in there. So infrared saunas are great. Foot bath or detoxing. I really like Epsom salt baths. If you don't have if you don't like tubs, or if you don't have a tub, you can just soak your feet with Epsom salts and a little bit of baking soda, and it does help to detox your body and help get rid of that stuff in your body. Okay, hope this was helpful. And if this has been helpful, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, send me your questions, send me your comments, and let me know if you want to get on a call with me if you need any help with any of this stuff. I love you guys, and have an awesome day.